Hello again. Welcome to the summary of Lesson 15. I hope that you found Lesson 13 and 14 helpful and you guys are making progress towards your goal of completing the class. Tonight we're going to jump in and do a summary and do similar as last time. You'll see some cuts and some edits here and there. Hopefully you'll see it go pretty smoothly tonight though. Let me pray and we'll get started. Father in heaven, we thank you for loving us. We thank you for the opportunity to continue our work and making progress in this class and trying to get it finished up. Father, I pray that you would continue to help the students focus and to do good work, to understand themselves, to understand you better, and to see the opportunities that you will provide for them. God, I ask that you would encourage them, that they would not be afraid, not be discouraged, not be anxious. God, we thank you for the work that you've already provided to some of the students and the growth and the opportunities that are seen by all the students. We thank you, and we pray that you would be with us now. I ask that this would go smoothly, that you would help me to communicate clearly what's most important, and that you would help the champions and the students continue to work through this lesson so that they can complete the assignments and get that much closer to wrapping up. So we thank you and we praise you. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, so the foundational message for tonight is found in John 16:33. And what we want to remember and kind of emphasize tonight is that God did not leave us alone in the world. We see a lot of trouble and sorrow around us. Even now, we kind of see it especially emphasized and kind of in our face right now during this time. But we don't have to go at it alone. God has not left us alone. He's told us that. In John 16:33, Jesus says this, "I have told you all this so that you may have peace in me. Here on earth you will have many trials and sorrows, but take heart, because I have overcome the world." So Jesus overcame the world. He overcame death and all that goes with it. He overcame. And when we are in Him, we can have peace, knowing that even in the midst of hard times, in the midst of sorrows and troubles, He is with us and He is overcome. And so we will as well, even in the midst of this, while we live in this troubled world and while we work in it as well. So let's talk tonight about continuing on in preparing for work. Before we jump into Lesson 15, let's review just quickly. I want to remind you this principles that work for life from the last lesson. They're very good ones. Very important that we remember those and try to put those into practice. We need to remember that our actions carry consequences and that they impact others. Hopefully you got that out of the last lesson and are remembering that and putting that into practice. Second, leaving a job can have consequences that are self-defeating. Sometimes when we leave a job too early or under the wrong conditions, it can actually do more damage than good, even if we think we're leaving for the right reason or for better opportunity. So we need to be careful and weigh those options carefully. Working through roadblocks enables us to achieve victory. Working through, putting in the work, putting in the time, the thought, the energy is what it takes to achieve our goals and to see progress in our lives. And so we want to be working through those roadblocks and not letting them hinder us or stop our progress. Finally, forgiveness is as much for us as it is for other people. Because unforgiveness gets in the way of a healthy relationship with God. God tells us that if we don't forgive others, He doesn't forgive us, because we don't have a good understanding of how much and what it is that He's forgiven if we're unwilling to forgive others. So those were the principles that work for life from the last lesson. Tonight we're going to look at increasing our job sustainability skills. We want to not just get a job, we want to be able to keep that job and grow in that job. And so we're going to be talking about that a little bit tonight and the mindset that it takes to achieve that. And one of those is to promote employer satisfaction, right? We hear about customer satisfaction pretty often. You may even have gotten a survey about customer satisfaction, what your experience was like with a company. We want to think about employer satisfaction. We'll talk more about that tonight. And then finally, we'll talk a little bit, and you guys will work through in the lesson, employee feedback and how to use that when, like employee reviews, things like that. So if you want to follow along in your book as we go, we're turning to 15.2, which is on page 141 in your workbook. And to start out with, what I want to think about for just a moment is give you an example of a time when I've had really poor customer service and another time that I've had really good customer service and the impact that had on me. So, an example of poor customer service. One time I was going to get my oil changed at one of those big stores that has an oil change department, and they do the big check, right? It's like 20-point or 30-point check. So they change your oil, and they're supposed to check all the fluids, and they check your light bulbs and everything, make sure everything's working properly. Well, I knew going in that I had a tail light that wasn't working, and I didn't say anything. I didn't even think of it really. So I went in, had them do the oil change and do all that stuff, and they printed out the receipt and showed the checklist, and on the checklist was tail light okay, implying that they'd checked my tail light and everything was okay. But I knew the bulb wasn't working. And so I asked the person, did you check my bulbs? They said, well, yeah, we checked. I said, I have a bulb that's out. And you've said it's okay. So how do I know that you did anything else that's on this checklist? And he couldn't really give me a good answer, but just to try to assure me that, well, we missed that, but we didn't miss anything else type of thing, and hemmed and hawed about it. I ended up not taking my car back there anymore because how can I trust that they even actually changed my oil if they didn't do something as simple as checking my taillight if they said they were going to? It'd be different if they didn't say anything about taillights, but it's on the paper. There's a checklist, and it was checked off that it was okay, but it wasn't. So that was an example of poor customer service, making excuses for missing instead of saying, you know what, let's go through and make everything right, or here's a free bulb because we missed it. No offer to make it right. On the other hand, I bought a product not too long ago, and due to as I was using it, a part broke on it, and it may have been my fault. And I bought the product on Amazon. Didn't register it with the company for the warranty or anything, but I called the company up and said, hey, I need a new part and I can't find it anywhere else. And they said, well, what happened? I told them what happened. They sent me a new one free of charge within a couple of days. I'll be a customer with that company for the rest of my life. Unless I were to have another experience where they didn't care, where they didn't do the right thing. So customer satisfaction is really important. And the point of all that, the reason I bring those stories up is to think about our bosses as our customer. We're providing a good or a service to them. And the better we do, the more satisfied they are. When we treat them as a customer, have that mindset rather than them being our boss necessarily. They are our boss, but they're a customer, and they're telling us very clearly at times what they want, what they need from us. And we want to provide that. And so we, in a sense, we are in control of our labor, of the service that we provide, and we want to provide a good service. We want to have good customer satisfaction in the light of the employer's side of it, that they are our customer. So that perspective really kind of shifts our mindset from being I have to do this because he told me to. It shifts it to, I need to do this to keep my customer happy so that they keep buying the service that I'm offering, right? Because that's really the transaction that's taking place. Your employer is paying you, is buying from you your service. And so you want to offer a good service so he'll keep buying it, right? So you don't get fired. So, or let go or replaced, whatever. So we want to shift our thinking about that a little bit, and that'll help. And Joseph, again, we keep coming back to Joseph because he's such a good model and a good story that helps us understand these principles really well. And his story is a good example of how, as employees, you can be rewarded for hard work, right? Just like that company that went out of their way, went above and beyond my expectations. Now I'm going to keep going back to them. And I'll, the first opportunity I'll get, I may get something even bigger or something additional. I've made some additional purchases from them, and I did so directly from their website. So in a similar way, Joseph worked hard, and he worked hard under the Lord and did good work and was rewarded for that along the way. So we see that in Joseph's life because he recognized that God had given him this work to perform, and so he did his best. And he's given us a work to perform, and so we should work unto him. Customer satisfaction is achieved when a customer receives a product or service that meets or exceeds their expectations. And likewise, employer satisfaction is achieved when an employer receives hard work or services that meet or exceed their expectations. And it's rewarded with continued pay, sometimes raises, sometimes promotions. So, need to be thinking along those lines. In this lesson, we're going to concentrate on the top 4 things that increase employer satisfaction. So this will be a really helpful, hopefully helpful time of thinking through these 4 areas that can help you increase your employer satisfaction with your performance, with your work. So they are respecting workplace culture, understanding and respecting workplace culture, attendance and punctuality, very important, teamwork, another one that's very important. Unless you're working a job where you're working alone almost all the time, but even in those jobs, there's your boss as part of your team. So teamwork and being mindful of others. And then conflict resolution. There's going to be conflict. We live in a world that is full of conflict. And so having the tools to resolve conflict well really aids in employer satisfaction. So if you'll turn with me to 15.3, that is on page 142 in your book. We're going to go through and talk about these pretty quickly. So ideally we'd be breaking up into groups right now, and each one of you would take one. So I'm just going to hit a few of the highlights for us all, and then with your champion you guys can go over what I skip in this section. So workplace culture is the first one. And so the things that you want to understand about workplace culture, and you may need to ask somebody as soon as you get hired, whether it's the HR manager or the boss, the owner, depending on the size of the company, whoever you're talking to, you want to understand what the culture is. Things like company breaks. Even though you're going to get a lunch break and some 15-minute breaks, 10-minute breaks, whatever it may be, you want to understand what they are, when they expect them to be, whether or not they expect employees to leave and come back during lunch, or if they expect you to bring your lunch and stay there for some reason. You want to understand these things so that you can meet those expectations. Personal phone calls. Most places are not going to be okay with you making personal phone calls during business hours. But there are some that are okay, or there are some things that are exceptions, like the kids' school calls, or there's a medical need for one of your kids or for a family member, some sort of appointment that needs to be made. So you want to understand what are the expectations. Are there certain times of day where it's okay and other times it's not? So you want to think about that. Socializing, that's another workplace culture thing. How much is the boss really okay with you stopping by somebody else's workstation and talking for 2 or 3 minutes just to catch up? Some places encourage that because they want the team members to feel more like a team. Other places are very task oriented, and if you want to do that, you need to do it during your breaks. So be aware of that. Routine communication. Different companies will have different levels of communication and reporting requirements. So you want to learn what is the requirements and how can I exceed those requirements in a positive way, and to be able to communicate well and to communicate as frequently as is needed. And then finally, you want to understand appearance and dress, what part of the culture that plays into. Is it something where you've got flexibility, or is there a uniform? If there's a uniform, then there's less for you to understand. You just gotta go to it and wear what they've provided for you to wear. But if there's not a uniform, then you need to know what is the expectation of what I should wear, and is there a way that I can dress for the job that I want to have, not necessarily the job that I have now. Thinking ahead, thinking about promotions or being assigned greater responsibility. I worked for a contractor that before he started his own business, he was working for another contractor, and he was a carpenter. He was pounding nails and putting up walls, but he wore a polo shirt every day instead of just a t-shirt that may be getting worn out. He would wear a polo shirt because he was business minded and he was dressing for the job that he wanted, not for the job that he currently had, and it was noticed. All right, so that's workplace culture. Second section, we're on page 143 in your workbook, attendance and punctuality. Question, why is showing up and being on time for work important in the workplace? hopefully you guys have a pretty good understanding of that. But one thing that can sometimes help is if you think about a time where you were at work and somebody that you were dependent upon getting work done didn't show up. So if you have to make a certain number of items in a day, and your team is required to, let's say there's 5 of you, and everybody together has to make 100 items a day, whatever it may be. Well, if one person doesn't show up, that's 20 more items that everybody else is responsible for. That's not happening, right? And so it creates more stress and strain on the team when we don't show up, or if you're late. It can, and assignments are being handed out because you're at a job where it's not the same thing all the time. Well, if you show up late and you're not there for the assignments, then the manager and the other team members have to figure out how to work around it, and then you show up and, well, now we got to change things again. So that's just a couple of examples to illustrate the importance of showing up on time and showing up. There's some proactive measures to ensure punctuality listed in that box. You guys can go over that together. But one of them is to make sure that you show up early. And that way, if something happens along the way and you're running late, well, if you were going to be early and now you're running 5 minutes late, you're either going to be on time or you're still going to be a little early, just not as early as you were going to be. So try to be thinking ahead that way as well. Section 3, we're going to keep moving through this part of the lesson. Little mini session 3 is on page 144 at the top. Thinking about this, teamwork. What does teamwork mean to you? Some people have different views of what a team is and how it should work together. Most jobs require us to work with other people to complete our work. Working well with other people is a requirement of many jobs, especially if we seek to become supervisors or managers. If you have hopes of moving up in a company, getting promoted, getting raises, it's going to be really important to show that you can work with a team. Sometimes that means swallowing our pride. Sometimes that means going out of our way to make sure that other people have what they need, or helping pick up some slack when they're not doing as well. Going above and beyond really goes a long way in communicating our understanding of teamwork and showing that we're a team player, that we want to provide the company with a good service. So there's 3 more questions in your book that you can look at there as well with your champion. So take some time to look at those. Let's move on to mini session 4, conflict resolution. That's in the middle of your workbook on page 144. What is most challenging for you about resolving conflict? Sometimes, maybe even often, conflict is unavoidable. So when conflict arises, we want to find solutions that meet needs on both sides, right? We don't want there to be winners and losers. We want it to be a win-win as much as possible, because the needs of all parties are met without compromising anyone's character or anyone's core needs. And so we want to look for ways to resolve conflict where both sides come out winning. Communication. Communication is key to understanding and resolving conflict. You want to think well about communication and how you present your ideas, how you present your viewpoints, to do so in a way that is not aggressive or that can come across as mean-spirited or critical. And you want to seek to understand the other side of the point, because often in conflict we get more defensive and more dug in, more aggressive even, when we feel like the other person is not hearing us, when we feel like they're not even trying to understand our side. We often either raise the volume or use more words or get aggressive in some way to try to get their attention. And so one of the ways to avoid or to bring the escalation back down is for you on your side to show, I'm trying to understand what you're saying. I'm trying to understand your concern, your side of it. And that can go a long ways to easing the tension. And it may help you realize, you know what, this is a misunderstanding. Now I see better. And as you are asking more questions, that's going to encourage them to ask more questions and seek to understand your position better, rather than both sides just trying to win. And so thinking about it that way, communication makes a big difference. And sometimes just asking questions, clarifying questions that show that you're listening, can be really helpful in resolving conflict. And then the second way to minimize conflict is forgiveness. Recognizing that, you know what, sometimes our emotions do get the better of us. Sometimes we say things that we shouldn't have, or in a way that we shouldn't have said it. Or we're thinking only of our way, and we weren't actually trying to understand the other person. And so we can go a long ways in resolving conflict simply by forgiving the other person if we feel like we've been wronged. And we see that example given most clearly in Christ, right? We who were sinful in our nature, He came and He laid His life down to forgive us. And so when we understand that forgiveness, it's easier for us to offer that forgiveness to others. So we want to remember that. Look for ways to minimize conflict in the workplace. A few more questions there for you and your champion to think through in your workbook, and I encourage you to do that. Employers experience employer satisfaction when these things happen. And this is in your book in the gray box. Meet job specifications, right? You'll get a job description that says this is what you're responsible for. Do your best to meet those specifications. Do good work. Work well with others to achieve goals. Be a team player and be goal-oriented. If there's a goal of having this much production done or whatever type of job it is, then work towards meeting those goals and helping others to do their part to meet those goals as well. Third, communicate effectively and with respect. Just as the way you would like to be talked to is respectful, be respectful in how you communicate with others, and that's going to help the effectiveness of your communication. Be where you're supposed to be when you're supposed to be there. This is the punctuality. This is being in the right place at the right time, to be doing your job, to be providing a good service to your employer. And employers have high employer satisfaction when we are constructive in resolving problems, when we engage in a way that's not combative but is looking to help both sides achieve their needs and achieve what they need to move forward to make progress toward the goal that's been set. All right, let's move to 15.4 then. That's at the bottom of page 145 in your workbook. We're going to look at a couple of scenarios. And I think it'll be really helpful for you to discuss the questions in your book with your champion, but I want to go over those now. Repentance and forgiveness are critical to restoring peace in life. They're important elements of conflict resolution, as we mentioned before. Forgiveness can be a one-way street, believe it or not. Some folks feel like they can only forgive if somebody asks to be forgiven. But that's not actually the case. We can forgive even if somebody's not forgiven us, because really what we're doing is we're giving up the right to have retribution or the right to revenge. And so we can give that up whether they ask us to or not, so that we're not holding on to that and it becoming baggage of anger and bitterness. Forgiveness frees us from that and allows us to make choices about our own behavior instead of reacting all the time to other people's behavior and being dependent upon their choices. So it's a powerful thing to forgive even when you're not asked for it. When someone who has wronged you asks for forgiveness, it opens the door for a restored relationship and rebuilding of trust. And so that's where it becomes a two-way street, is in order to rebuild that relationship and regain trust, it does have to be there. But just forgiveness, you can offer that whether they ask you for it or not. Conflicts that test us can arise even daily in the workplace, that test our repentance, that test forgiveness, that test our ability to restore relationships. And so the following scenario is going to help us look at some healthy ways to deal with conflict in the workplace. There's some great questions for you to discuss with your champion in between. I'm going to read the scenarios and then you guys stop and discuss the questions or come back to it at the end of the video and discuss these questions. Scenario 1. You and 3 other members of your sales team are working for the casual shoe store, selling shoes to customers, keeping inventory, maintaining sales records, and stocking products. When the store is doing well, one of the team, let's call her Shirley, is always taking credit. When results are average or poor, she is quick to point her finger at the other team members. You didn't order enough of the fast-selling shoes. You're always talking but never closing the sale. The displays are not right. You always try to sell the cheapest shoes, not those of the highest profit. You do not display the shoes well. You're always watching me, etc. Shirley's finger pointing is causing division within the team, and results for the casual shoe store are now consistently below average. So what do you do about that? How do you deal with Shirley? So there's some questions there for you to discuss with your champion. Now let's imagine for a moment scenario 2 or 1.2. 3 months later, Shirley leaves to go to work for a competitor. You get promoted to store manager. 6 months later, after that, then, Shirley gives you a call and says, "Hey, I lost my job. Can I come back to casual shoes?" She says that she recognizes the problem that she caused and will take a pay cut and promises to be a team player. You do have an opening. What do you do? Some good questions there for you guys to discuss. Let's turn to 15.5. Let's talk through this for a few minutes. We want to talk about employee evaluations. Now, that can feel very scary. That can produce anxiety for some people, but they're really an opportunity. So we want to talk about that a little bit before we wrap up today. Why do you think employees have an annual performance review? Why do you think companies would have their employees be reviewed annually? And often, there's an initial review. After you've been working for a company 2 to 3 months, they'll look and see, where are your weaknesses? What are you doing well? Where could you improve? And so most well-run companies do have these evaluations. It's part of a good process that helps them put out better services and better products. They want to meet their goals. The purpose of the employee evaluation is to understand how well employees are doing and what training they may need to improve their performance. So the evaluation process is an opportunity for the employee to obtain and to offer feedback to the employer. This process is a critical tool in knowing how to continue advancing towards or establishing your career goals. And so this is an opportunity, not just something to be nervous about. Employee evaluations allow employers to identify exceptional employees and promote or offer pay raises to recognize that work, different incentives that may help them perform even more. The evaluations do also identify poor employees. That's not always to let them go. The employer most often would rather see someone who's already hired improve and grow in their weaknesses to offer better service to the company rather than get rid of them and try to bring in someone new, especially if you've shown that you want to be a team player and work well for the company. So deficiencies in skills or things like that, they're usually willing to work with you and try to give you some extra training, some extra effort to help you become a better employee. So don't fear them. Look at them as opportunities. A good employee evaluation is critical to keeping a job or being promoted to higher levels of employment. Many employees make the mistake of frequently switching companies, trying to get ahead. So they'll hear about a company. We talked about this a couple lessons ago where the lady took a job paying a little bit more per hour, but that meant that she dropped out of the chef school. And so this is one of those times where it may look like the other company. Maybe it's 25 cents, maybe it's $1 more per hour, and you think, well, I should go do that so I can make more money. Well, if you do that often enough and you're trying to make these little improvements, over time what they've found is most employees that stay with a company for 4, 5, 6 years, they're better off than the person who's bounced around from company to company making these small improvements along the way of pay or hours, whatever it may be, that those employees that stick with it end up in a better place in time. And so some of that's just paying your dues, right? Putting in the time, putting in the effort, showing that you're loyal, showing that you put in good work. Eventually you get rewarded, and usually in a bigger way than if you're bouncing around. So keep that in mind. And then finally, we'll think about training. Many good companies include a training plan as part of their evaluation. Again, this isn't just trying to figure out who should we get rid of. It's trying to figure out what else do you need to be a better employee, to provide the service that we need at a better level. With that being said, there is an activity that you can do with your champion in 15.6 that starts on the bottom of page 147 in your book. And it's understanding that a supervisor's job is to improve in performance. So as a supervisor, when you have one, their job is to make sure you're performing well. If you become a supervisor, your job will be to make sure that everybody else is doing their job well. And so we want to offer training, we want to offer supervision that helps everybody be better. And that's part of the employee evaluation process. So take a look at that section with your champion and work through that. Now, you may think, is this really important? Is this a waste of time to spend all this time thinking through these people and doing an evaluation? It'll be helpful. So do the work, work through the process, read about these employees, and do an evaluation. It'll be good practice in case you get to be a supervisor, but it's also going to help you understand what the supervisor is looking for. All right, it's time to summarize, to wrap this lesson up. 15.7, what did you learn today? Hopefully you learned something. I know this video is briefer and not as full as our class discussions would be. Hopefully you're getting that with your champion. We are certainly appreciative that you would take the time to continue this work, and we want to recognize that. We want to encourage you to keep going. You're almost there. There's only one lesson left. You can do it. And guess what? There's only one required task left. Now, this one's a little longer, maybe, than some of the other ones, but it's going to be worth the effort. So on page 197 in your workbook, you'll find required task 15. And there's a lot of questions there about your journey so far, about Jobs for Life and your whether it's been helpful or not. So we want you to be open and honest about that and put in some time on answering those questions for us and for yourself to see what you've grown in and how you've come along the journey. Like I said, there's only one session left, so good job. Keep going, and pray that God blesses you in your effort to complete this class and also to find employment as soon as possible. So let me pray to close this out. Father in heaven, we thank you. We thank you that you are good, that this virus and this situation did not catch you by surprise. The economics did not surprise you. None of it caught you off guard. Help us to trust you. Help us to trust that you will use this for our good as we love and are submitted to you. Help us. I pray that you would help these students do the work, finish well, to do so for your glory, trusting that you are good, and that they will see fruit of their labors, that they would see benefit of going through the class and see the fruit of putting in the time to find good employment. So I pray that you bless them. Bless them with your presence, bless them with your help, bless them with your peace in the midst of a time that there's a lot of uncertainty. I pray these things in Jesus' name. Amen. All right, you all. Finish well. You can do it. I hope to see you soon.